Hello, it's Cece, and today I am going to be doing for you all the Halloween book tag. So that is right, it is my favorite time of year. It is Halloween. It is the day of trick-or-treating. It is the day of partying. It is the day of dressing up and looking spooky and watching excellent movies like Hocus Pocus and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. And I'm not going to pretend that my tastes are fancier than that. But today, because it is Halloween, the best time of the year, I've dressed up especially spooky for you all to do the Halloween book tag, which was originally created by the Library of Sarah, which I will link the video to below, but let's get into these special spooky questions. So the first question is, what is your favorite horror book? This is a difficult question because honestly, I haven't read as much horror as I probably should have. In fact, I think I really only got into the genre this year, but the one that I chose that I read this year was, probably not surprising, Phantoms by Dean Koontz. This was my first ever Dean Koontz novel, and it completely knocked me off my feet, as well as scaring the pants off me. It was very spooky, very creepy, and definitely my favorite horror read thus far. Question number 2, what is the scariest moment in a book that you have read? I think I have 2 answers for this. The first comes from Phantoms. There is this scene where a character dies, and you know the character's gonna die, but he's going towards his death anyway, and he dies in the creepiest way, and it totally freaked me out. In fact, honestly, there are a lot of moments in this book that were definitely super, super scary, but I just remember one of the deaths in particular totally freaking me out. And the other most scary moment in a book that I have read probably comes from The Merciless by Danielle Vega. There is a scene at the end of this book that had me holding the book away from me as I read it because it totally got to the creepiest parts of my brain and the very bits that freak me out. In fact, if you have seen the movie The Craft, there is a scene near the end of the movie that's very similar. That's really all the description I want to give it because I think that revealing the scene itself kind of gives a lot away about the book, but there's that scene near the end of the book that completely freaked me out and definitely super, super scary. Question number 3, would you or have you ever dressed up as a character from a book for Halloween? This is an interesting question because honestly, I have never dressed up as a character from a book that I've read on Halloween. Let me clarify. I say I am a cosplayer, and I am, but I'm an amateur cosplayer. I have not done that much. But the biggest thing that I've done is that I cosplay Arya Stark from Game of Thrones, because I have a very, very tall friend who looks a mighty lot like the Hound. And we look pretty cool together. And I love the show Game of Thrones, but I've never read the books, so I don't think that I can count it. So no, I technically have not ever dressed up as a character for Halloween, also because I've never worn my Arya costume on Halloween. But I definitely would dress up as book characters in the future for Halloween. In fact, one of the ones that I want to do in the future is I want to make a Frodo costume so that I can go and I can cosplay, but I'd love to wear my Frodo costume on Halloween. And of course, at some point, I would love to do a costume from Harry Potter, and I'm sure that there are others, but those are the ones that I currently am thinking of. Question number 4, what do you think your favorite book character would dress up as for Halloween? This is also a very difficult question, mostly because it's so hard to pick a favorite book character. So, just so you know, for this question alone, I am choosing Neville Longbottom. I don't know if he's my favorite literary character of all time. He's my favorite character in Harry Potter, and so he's the first person that comes to mind when I thought of this question, but I think that there are way too many characters out there to narrow it to one favorite character. But if we're going on Neville Longbottom, what I decided was, after a conversation with Janelle, what would be adorable, Neville would dress up as Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors. If you've seen the movie, if you've seen the stage production, that is the lead character in Little Shop of Horrors. And he would carry with him a teeny tiny Venus flytrap that he would call Audrey too, because it would be the perfect combination. I'm assuming Harry, something along those lines, would sit him down, show him the Muggle movie Little Shop of Horrors, and Neville would be completely taken up with the character of Audrey 2 and all that it meant for mystical plants, and he'd probably try to discover more about it, and he would definitely be taken with that character. So Neville would totally dress up as Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors. Question number 5, what is your favorite type of horror? So this is kind of a tricky question because, as I already mentioned, I have not read a ton of horror. I've read a bit. I've read stuff from a lot of different areas of horror, but I don't think that I'm versed in it enough to really know my favorite type. I will say that I really like psychological, but my love for psychological books applies to more than just horror. I really enjoy psychological books in general, so of course that would carry over to horror as well. But if I was going to pick a favorite, I'd probably do psychological. I think that of all the horror books I've read, that has been my favorite aspect of each of them, so long answer to a short question. Probably psychological horror. The next question is, if books were as cheap as candy, which books would you give out to trick-or-treaters? I don't know, because I'm so picky about the books I recommend to people. I have to, like, get a detailed list of what books they like so I can compare it to, like, a whole list, and there's, like, an algorithm before I recommend them a book. I'm very intense about it. So I would probably stick to short stories or small books, or, you know what, actually, I just thought of an idea. I think this would be really cute. So recently, while I've been here, I've started collecting the Penguin Classics, these teeny tiny little books, and they are not quite as cheap as candy, but they are fairly cheap. It would probably be pretty cute to hand these out to trick-or-treaters. They'd hate me. I'd also give them candy, because I don't want to be that person who denies a child candy on Halloween. I would have hated that person. I would not have liked me. But if I was to give out a book with chocolate, I'd probably also hand out these little Penguin Classic books, so maybe that's my answer. Question 7, what is your Halloween TBR? I don't have a very long Halloween TBR because I didn't bring any horror books with me, so currently my only Halloween TBR book is a book I am currently reading, and that is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This is the only Gillian Flynn book I hadn't read, and I decided to read it after I was invited into a group that's all reading Sharp Objects together. I think that there will be a live show for that group at some point. I will get more information on that, and it will be in the description, or it will be in my wrap-up in the next couple of days. But Sharp Objects is really creepy. It takes place in a small town, very psychological, also a lot of, like, creepy murder stuff going on, and I'm really liking it, but that is probably my only creepy read for October. And finally, the last question is to recommend some Halloween books. This will be stepping on the toes of a video that I've already done, which you can go and watch, and that will be my Top 5 Wednesday of my Top 5 Creepy Reads, so you can go and watch that. But I will just mention a few more now. I will mention the ones that I mentioned in that video. I'll just hurry and give you a list of some of my favorite creepy reads, but you can go and watch that video for slightly more detail. So of course, as already mentioned, Phantoms by Dean Koontz. Absolute favorite horror book, highly recommend, and I think you'll get through it really quickly. If you're looking for some more classic Halloween reads, I would definitely recommend Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and Dracula by Bram Stoker. Of course, these are the traditional Halloween classics, but I've read both of them. I enjoy Frankenstein a lot more than Dracula, but I think Dracula is still a lot of fun, so definitely recommend both of these. I would also highly recommend Horns by Joe Hill. I'd also recommend The Merciless by Danielle Vega, which I read this summer. Fantastic bit of YA horror, which I don't think you can say very often. Another one that I think is very interesting would probably be The Vanishing Hitchhiker by Jan Harold Brunrand. This is a book about urban legends and about how they're passed around, and the author tracks a few different stories and the differences that they have heard in different places, how those stories change. It's just really interesting. I read this book when I was really into, like, urban myths and folklore and stuff, so this is a very cool book that I think you could read on Halloween. And the last one I'd probably like to mention, because one of my favorite authors has to get a mention here, and that is Adam by Ted Dekker. This is a very creepy book. It is definitely horror, definitely psychological, very interesting. It is about a serial killer, and I highly recommend it. So guys, that is the end of the Halloween book tag. I hope you enjoyed. This is a fabulous, fabulous holiday. Go out and be spooky, enjoy it. I know it's not celebrated as much around the world as it is in the old US of A. We're very intense about our Halloween, but you can still be excited about it. Right now my room is not decorated, and normally it would be, but I'm celebrating at heart. I am listening to Halloween music on repeat. Go listen to some Halloween music, listen to some Halloween playlists, watch some Halloween movies. Please in the comments let me know, what is your favorite movie to watch on Halloween? Gotta know. What's your favorite movie? I think we all have a lot of different ones. Here in my flat, everyone's really intense about watching Hocus Pocus together, so that's probably our favorite. What are yours? Let me know. And of course, thank you for watching. I will see you in another less spooky video very soon. Bye!